There are several ethical complications for Jenny in regards to her stubbornness to have paramedics treat her father. Firstly, is it ethical for Jenny to ignore her father's wishes in this setting? In her mind, treating her father is the only ethical thing to do. She believes that the treatment of her father is beneficial to her as she wants him to stay alive and be a part of her life for further support to her in the future. The treatment of her father is the right thing in her mind, regardless of any consequences. Neglecting her sick father won't be compatible with her virtues of honesty and compassion. In our eyes, Jenny's ignoring of her father's wishes can be perceived to be unethical as it is not in the best interest of Mr. Benson, as clearly stated in his Advanced Healthcare Directive, AHD. However, she may not have known about her father's aversion to the specific hospital in which his wife died, or the existence of his AHD. She may have interpreted her father's stubbornness for treatment as a will to die and join his late wife, not for the other valid reasons. The paramedics have also proven to have respected the 4 principles of bioethics as they have respected the decision made by Mr. Benson concerning his own life, they have not caused any harm by providing treatment and not worsening Mr. Benson's emotional and psychological status, and by doing so, they have also respected his wishes, and lastly, they have respected Mr. Benson's authority and provided him with what he deserves.
Well, we were obliged to act by the Code of Conduct for the Queensland Public Service, which states that we must act with integrity and impartiality, promoting the public good when complying with all relevant legislation, awards, agreements, and policies. The legislation here is particularly binding for us as paramedics. Firstly, if we think about the QAS CPG on the patient refusal of treatment, we had to oblige by the patient wishes given he had capacity, although not specifically stated. Mr. Benson was determined to have capacity as the only medical history he had was hypertension, and chest pain was the only presenting condition. He was also living independently and fully functioning. We confirm he had the authority to leave Mr. Benson at home with the advice to seek further consultation, as his decision was voluntary and not influenced by a family member. We informed Mr. Benson of all the risks and consequences of his decision. He specifically refused treatment for life-sustaining measures offered to him, and he was willing to accept the risks of neglecting this treatment. He had shown all the signs to have capacity to make his own decisions, and his short-term memory didn't seem impaired. He understood all the implications of his actions and the alternative treatments that are available. Lastly, we have advised Mr. Benson of all the services and support networks he can access from home using his phone.
Thank you very much for that, Maxine. From a legal standpoint, it was definitely the correct decision to obey Mr. Benson's Advanced Health Directive and leave him at home on the advice of receiving further medical treatment. According to the Queensland legislation, all adults are assumed to have capacity unless proven otherwise. It was never shown that Mr. Benson lacked capacity, so Jenny's requests for treatment should rightfully be ignored. Mr. Benson understood the nature of his decision and could effectively communicate it. Furthermore, his decision-making for withholding and withdrawing potential life-sustaining measures is supported given his capacity. Mr. Benson, although never losing capacity, was acting according to his Advanced Health Directive that he completed to make sure his wishes in regards to future medical treatment were fulfilled, even if he was to lose the ability to make decisions. In addition, due to the existence of Mr. Benson's Advanced Health Directive, Jenny, as his health attorney, wouldn't have had the legal right to make decisions on her father's future medical treatment. This is due to the fact that if Mr. Benson had impaired decision-making capacity, decisions regarding healthcare were to be made in the following order of priority: Advanced Health Directive, one or more guardians appointed by the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal, one or more attorneys, then a statutory health attorney. Jenny, as the statutory health attorney, is someone with the automatic authority to make healthcare decisions for the adult if they are unable to make them because of illness or incapacity. However, a statutory health attorney is only necessary if you have not provided direction about your medical treatment in your Advanced Health Directive. So, Jenny isn't in a position to decide on the treatment given to her father. Furthermore, Jenny's decision wouldn't have respected the legislation which states that in deciding whether the exercise of a power is appropriate, the attorney must, to the greatest extent practicable, seat the adult's views and wishes and take them into account. Finally, the decision-making must reflect the respect for life and the patient's right to know and choose, meet the standards of good medical practice, obtain the appropriate consent through a collaborative approach, and show transparency in and accountability for all decision making. These standards have all been met by the paramedics in the treatment of Mr. Benson.
Alternate pathways may have included the following. Paramedics could have taken Mr. Benson to his usual GP, whom he trusts and knows, if he would have preferred this alternative. Furthermore, Mr. Benson could have waited for his daughter to take him to his GP if he was deterred from visiting the hospital due to his wife's passing at that facility. This would mean that Mr. Benson could gain a second opinion from a health professional who he trusts. His daughter would have peace of mind that he was seeking a medical intervention and thus achieving utilitarianism. While we can only assume that Jenny wasn't aware of Mr. Benson's advanced healthcare directive, her knowledge of its existence could have helped her to act more ethically and support her father's wishes. Nevertheless, the paramedics have proven to have respected their code of conduct while assisting and treating Mr. Benson, as well as their legal requirements stated in the above regulations. Therefore, we conclude that the paramedics' decision to respect Mr. Benson's wishes and to not transport him to hospital was the right decision to make, both ethically and legally.
We came to the end, it seems you had heard as we walked.